I have it right here though, just in case. Just like everything else. That's the ball. I get it.
Let Jim sit right there at the table. That's for him and Seth. That's a good spot. I sat there. See my dinner. Peanut M&M.
Let's go back to the back and taking a handful of cheese. Put your pockets. Yeah, there's snacks here.
So I got tired.
You get up.
Actually,
You actually have to hold.
that's what you want to
I just want to say, hey. Yeah, right. I think he's.
All the way to Crash Hill, my logs, all the way. That's
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Are they starting to plan up there with
That's part of my comment.
What's one thing about the Park Service? We went through because we put the team together, man, and they have it down by the time it happens. Yeah. Good evening. I'm Karen Nagy with Myersdale Borough Council. Welcome to this meeting regarding the High Street Bridge organized by my fellow council members and the county commissioners. Since we haven't had an in-person meeting on this vital bridge in 4 years, we're gathered here tonight to come up with a game plan to get this project moving forward. I would like to say we value our relationship with CSX. They're a major employer in our area, and we appreciate the valuable jobs you provide to our citizens. There are some photos on the tables about a situation we had a week ago. Last Thursday, there was a locomotive fire that closed all the crossings across our community for, Mike can tell us, probably 4 hours. So the only access for safety reasons, fire, EMS, et cetera, and people to get home without detouring is across this vital CSX bridge. If the High Street Bridge isn't available, EMS could be detoured 10 minutes or more out around. So with that, we'll say we appreciate everybody's attendance tonight. We appreciate everybody's help, your interest. Vince is now going to give us an update on the current status of the bridge. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody. I didn't realize we'd have such a big crowd. My name is Vince Greenland. I'm the district executive for PennDOT Engineering District 9, which oversees transportation services in Somerset County, along with the rest of the region. This particular bridge is somewhat unusual in that it's owned by the railroad CSX, but it carries vehicular traffic, of course, across the railroad, which is why I'm involved. And because it carries vehicular traffic, and that obviously increases the public concern regarding the overall condition of the structure, it has to follow NBIS or National Bridge Inspection Standards. And because it's over 20 feet, that means it has to be inspected every 2 years. Myersdale Borough actually does that through our inspection program, and because of the condition of the bridge and its deteriorated nature, it now has to be inspected every 6 months. So that's kind of where we're at with the inspection cycle. Obviously, like everyone knows, the bridge is quite old. It was built in the mid-40s. It had a series of postings, and the postings are a little bit different where originally, I think it was a 26 tons and 29 tons. And so what that means is 26 would be a single or just a single unit vehicle, and then the other one is a combination. It then was reduced to 14 and then 23 for combination vehicles. But based on the inspection that was last done in February, then what happens? The engineers then take all that information and then do a new load analysis. It's going to be reduced to 14 tons and 20 tons for combination. So that hasn't happened. We anticipate that happen over the next several weeks. The main concern with the bridge, any bridge has 3 elements: the substructure, the concrete pillars that hold the bridge up, the beams that go across the span, the railroad will be another element, and then the deck surface itself. The concerning part for this bridge is the deck surface and the beams. The deck is the worst. It's rated as a 3, which is a very serious condition. That's because it's a timber deck underneath the bituminous roadway surfaces or timber. It's a timber deck. That is in a state of disrepair. And then the steel beams are in a similar situation that need plated or repaired. Based on our experience, the only way you're going to increase the load rating is some sort of an interim repair. But the reality is, based on the deterioration and the age of the structure, we would recommend that it would be replaced. This is what our recommendation would be. So the next inspection would be in August, and obviously a bridge. Typically these structures are have a useful life of expectancy of about 75 years. We're past that. So obviously, as it continues to age, you would anticipate a drop in the overall the load rating and the overall posting to eventual closure. Any question regarding the condition of the structure?
CSX, if you would like to come up, Michael.
Good afternoon, good evening. Mike Slipper, CSX Public Project Manager for the Northeast. I'm based out of Albany, New York. We've received the inspections from the borough, the defects and the conditions noted. So the CSX plan currently, we're going to bring in one of our engineering firms in the next couple of weeks to do a full inspection of the bridge for our records to confirm or get our opinion on what the state of the bridge is and kind of see what we need to do, potentially schedule repairs based on that inspection. Don't have a full timeline yet, but again, we are planning on doing a full inspection of the bridge and planning on going from there. I do agree that replacement of the bridge is probably imminent. A couple of years ago, I came down here and met with the borough. We talked about plans on how to do it. Currently, as mentioned, the bridge is owned by CSX. I think there has to be a transfer of ownership or something to go after some FHWA grants. And we're here to kind of continue that conversation and see how we can work together on getting this bridge replaced in the near future. Yeah.
We had to close in February the pedestrian walkway, which is forcing USPS workers, pedestrians, everybody to walk in the roadway. Could we at least get that repaired? Our solicitor notified you of those issues.
So we saw those. We'll take that in consideration when we do the full inspection to see what needs to be done there and put that in our repair estimate. So no timeline yet, but again, we're already going to do a full inspection.
When's the inspection?
It'll be in the next couple of weeks. I don't have a date yet. But yeah, we'll consider that when we do the full repairs to get them back in service.
Will you let the borough know when the inspection is taking place?
I'll see if we can let the borough know. So we have some privacy rules and stuff that are federally governed railroad. So I will let you know. That can be shared.
If the bridge has been deteriorating and going down on the weight rating for years, why are we waiting now to discuss what to do with the bridge? Per se, why wasn't the bridge then gradually repaired? Why is it to the point where it's so drastic that we're just going to shut the bridge and close it?
No one's shutting and closing the bridge down. Right, the bridge has been inspected and maintained. Bridges deteriorate over time. This one has just deteriorated a little quicker.
How many times have bridge inspected this year?
We follow the federal guidelines for bridge inspections. I believe we inspected it once this year.
Already been inspected 3 times this year. I live 2 doors away. They've been under it 3 times. Guarantee you. Wife didn't get home from work because the damn bridge was shut down. EF was under it. You guys were under it. It's all baloney.
Has to be inspected.
Do you have any suggestions for individuals needing to go from one end of the bridge and across it? If position area is closed off for pedestrians. They have to walk into the roadway. Do you have any thoughts about handling that until you have your inspection?
I don't. I walked across it several times today. There were some cars traveling a lot faster than I thought they should be, but just be careful.
Oh, okay.
Well, in his defense, people need to travel the speed limit, and there will be less of an imminent danger.
True.
Hi, Pam Mickus, one of the county commissioners. Just for my background, and I know there have been discussions about the transfer of ownership. Does the ownership necessarily have to transfer to the municipality? to
That
be
was,
repaired?
that was the way it was explained to me last time, is some of the grants that they were seeking, you had to own the asset to be able to go after a grant to replace it.
Right.
And that's why their transfer of ownership was being discussed. We talked about a temporary transfer of ownership dependent on getting the grant, because if one didn't get done in a certain amount of time, the borough didn't want to be stuck with the bridge, had to make its repairs. So we were talking about temporary transfer of ownership and maintaining maintenance rights. So a bunch of different things to discuss, but it was the understanding that to get a grant or FHW
If you
federal
use a
money to replace
microphone,
it,
please.
that the asset had to be owned so you could get the grant. That's why the transfer
Yeah,
of ownership.
I
was
think
there.
the county was trying to assist in obtaining that grant. Would CSX, given the deteriorating condition, consider using your own funds to replace your bridge?
We would use our own funds to maintain the bridge. I don't think we would be up for a full replacement.
So you would use your funds, though, to bring it up to a standard, a safety standard?
Based on the upcoming inspection, we're gonna make that determination.
So we have a couple options. I guess that's what I'm getting at, because I know I have heard from the Borough Council that they're very concerned about the responsibility of transfer of ownership. And as, you know, politics happens, there are new people on the council now.
Right.
So you're talking to a whole different group of individuals, and I don't know what that commitment might be. But in the meantime, you know, public safety is at stake. So, you know, the county will do what it can. Brian and I are both here from the county to try to assist in obtaining that funding, but I don't want public funding to stand in the way of that bridge transfer. I think the goal here of everyone is basically safety.
Yeah.
And so the faster we can get it brought up to a safety standard, the better. And if you have to use your own money to do that, I think, you know, the partnership that exists between the borough and CSX will certainly continue, maybe without transfer of ownership.
Yeah, like I said, I was here a couple of years ago and we were having those conversations, and then there was a change in leadership, and we didn't have those anymore. So like, we're here tonight to restart those conversations.
Okay, great.
So again, transfer of ownership, going out, seeing what replacement options there are. And then again, CSX is going to do an inspection of the repairs and make a determination of next steps internally.
Thank you.
I'm Mike Miller, I'm the fire chief here in town. A lot of our concern is the crossings being blocked so often. Is there a time limit that you can have a crossing blocked? Because, yeah, just like the other day, like Karen said, you know, it was 4 hours, nobody got across any of the crossings in town. This winter, it was 8 to 10 hours that we didn't get to Lake City.
Is that enough
That's
already?
that's a 25-minute detour for an emergency vehicle.
Yeah.
And if we eliminate the bridge up here that I can't get a fire truck across it, we're looking at 10 to 12 minutes on a good day.
Yep.
With no
In the middle of
complications.
winter, we're not doing it because our best access is across Johnny Popper or whatever that is up there, and that is terrible in the winter.
Yeah.
So we're not doing it. So we're not getting to the other side of that. And if you lower the bridge, if you lower the limit, I don't have a small enough fire truck to go across it.
Yep, understand. Oh,
I have a question following up with that.
yep. So
Isn't the FRA have a regulation that a crossing can be only blocked for so long? You're the railroad expert, that's why I asked you. The FRA does, I'm pretty sure.
That's correct.
And did you violate that day?
So I don't know if it's a violation, right? So I don't know if we get fined or anything. There is rules on how long you can block a crossing and for what methods, right? If you're switching or if you're just tying down cars, you can't block crossings. The other day, I was told a locomotive caught fire, right? And if a locomotive catches fire, regardless of what the regulation is, you're not gonna move it.
Correct. And the other day, he was talking about you had insufficient power on the top end of that trail, or that train to make the hill, which again bogged down and was unable to move. So it was there for 8 hours until you could get another head or a push to it. So my question is, what's your liability in that situation?
Liability?
Yeah.
As to what?
As to in access for people to be able to have sufficient EMS and fire coverage.
I don't know if I can answer a question on what our liability is in that situation. Kind of very.
You can. I'm sure you can.
School buses are in the same situation. It's just it's a bad situation. You know, when these crossings are blocked, you know, it really puts things in a bind.
Right now, I forgot to introduce myself. My name's Ken Martini. I'm president of Maristone Ambulance. Right now, at your weight limit now, not a problem. You drop down to 7 tons, that's a problem for us. Most of our vehicles weigh at least 16,000 pounds. At that point, that bridge becomes not really accessible for us at those times. And that's unloaded, not loaded. So I have to go with the loaded weight.
Understand.
And again, that'll delay.
I think to summarize the concern, we're at the point where we need solutions soon. So I'm really glad you're bringing an engineer in, but I don't know that we're going to have time to wait for grants a year or two. I just don't think so. I think we've waited 4 years, and I think we need to meet again in 4 to 6 weeks and see where we are. And I think we're going to have to meet every month, month and a half. Like we have to get some steps in place on a timeline, and we have got to make some serious progress on this issue.
So again, the first thing we're gonna do is inspect the bridge,
Correct.
you know, internally.
That's right.
And kind of discuss internally what would need to be done. And we can probably share what we're gonna do.
Okay.
It's about, unfortunately, like
That's
bitchy right
fair.
now,
That's fair.
so.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
I think Mark has the borough's response.
So-
Unless somebody else.
One more thing. So you're saying that the borough needs to take responsibility for that bridge if you were to replace it?
If we were to replace the bridge, it would be a newer bridge. Normally, the ownership transfers to the borough.
So just saying up front, the borough is not gonna have to pay to replace that bridge, but when it's replaced, they're taking ownership of it.
That would be my suggestion, yes.
I'm local. I'm Kevin Brower, local emergency management coordinator. In the past, not only that crossing been blocked in town for a long period of time, to the point that the borough went and put another access road in because of the continued blocking of the roadway. The concern is, what more does the borough need to do? I mean, we've already put a road in for one section of town. So if trains continue to stop, and I get this was a train fire, but in the past it wasn't. Trains been blocking for hours and hours on time. There's gotta be a solution. I sat assisting the ambulance on one side. They made it to the other side, but because that bridge was shut down because of the gas work being done, we sat and listened to them going with a cardiac arrest. You know, so it's not, okay, this is an inconvenience. We have no access to that. And that puts lives in danger.
Understand. I mean, our intention is not to take the bridge out of service. Again, we're gonna inspect the bridge,
But technically it is for a fire truck.
It's already out of service. For him, not for us at the ambulance, but for him right now, it's out of service.
Understand?
So I just have one quick question, just to make sure that I heard you right. If you go with a full replacement of the bridge, ownership would transfer to the borough. But did I hear that you said that CSX would still maintain the bridge?
You talking about for a new bridge or
A new
for?
bridge, yeah.
No, so normally when there's a bridge replacement such as this, there's several railroad-owned highway bridges, right? The railroad doesn't like to own those for obvious reasons. So when one comes up for replacement and it gets replaced, normally it goes to a highway division, whether it's a state bridge, borough, town, whatever. That's just normally how it works. So in this case, if the grant comes, the bridge is replaced, our intention is to transfer ownership and maintenance of the new bridge, which should last a long time, to the borough. Yeah, I understand. The question was, if we need to transfer ownership now, right, because you have to own the asset to get a grant,
Right.
what that transfer does. Do we fully transfer it? Do we transfer it and keep maintenance until the bridge is replaced? Conversations to go down the line.
So the one thing that's a little bit different, I mean, they're the owner now, okay? And so anything happens from this point, so anything that happens then from this point on, I think is a negotiation. The reality is the PUC is the one that if the parties can't agree, then it would go in front of the PUC, who then would make a decision. What the borough has to realize is the PUC could say that the bridge will be the borough's. And he's right, based on my experience, a lot of times that's what happens, because it's a vehicular bridge over a railroad. So, and that's part of the why I think there's a little bit of urgency here. I think there's two parts to this. One is the short term and what needs to be done to the bridge so that we can extend the life of it and it doesn't keep deteriorating. And that's where I don't, CSX, I think that's kind of, you guys have to decide that. And ultimately the money and who's going to fix that would probably be CSX. That's my opinion, but we'll see what happens. But then the second part, which I think is the most concerning, is then what are we going to do as far as the replacement? We got to figure out ownership. The reality is this isn't cheap. It's probably $3 million what we're talking about. So, when he talks about federal highway grants, I think most of the times you're talking about just, basically, Somerset County's bridge money that comes into Southern Alleghenies, which is our, money basically is our base allocation comes out of Penn Fund, is really where the majority of that's what he's talking about. So bridges over 20 feet are typically distributed where it's 80 or 95% would be federal and state, and then 5% local. Now, on bridge projects like this where there's a railroad, normally there is, particularly when they're the owner, there's some sort of a contribution then from the owner as well. And that's just normal. Now, how much that is, I don't know. We'll see if we can work that out. If not, then I would think that probably the PUC would interject. But I think we've got to start that process, because you're not talking about something that if we start today, we're not going to, I don't see us, breaking ground in 2 years, to be honest. I think with the PUC and the railroad, you're probably talking 3, more likely 4 years once we get started. So that's why I think, we've got to start having some discussions. And, if we can't work something out, I think then obviously, and I don't think, is anybody from the PUC here? I thought they were invited, but I don't. Okay. I think we did invite them, yes. We did. Yeah. So, but they're a very important party in this whole thing as we move forward. So yeah, does that kind of sum it up, I think, as far as where we're at? So I think that your idea of meeting in 6 weeks, at some point, once the inspection's done, get an idea for the temporary part, and then start maybe some discussions on, we know it's $3 million. I think that's our starting point, what we need. And that would be for design and for construction, and we can start figuring that part out.
I have a quick question. So just to play devil's advocate, what happens if the inspection comes back? And my first part of my question will be, if PennDOT is inspecting this bridge every 6 months and you're receiving those reports, why hasn't action been taken way previous to this meeting? And then secondly, when you send out your own engineers to do that report and there's conflicting information based upon the PennDOT inspection as to your inspection, how do we come to a resolve there?
So we have made repairs in the past. I can't speak to those individually, but I know repairs have been made to the bridge. And then when it comes to the conflicting inspection, one is a highway bridge inspection, right, done federally, and then one is a railroad inspection. The railroad inspections are private. We don't have to make those public. So, and those two systems, I don't believe talk. So they're not uploaded to one system to see any conflicting reports.
So you don't have to give your inspection report to PennDOT regarding your private inspection so that they can compare to the inspection that they did on the bridge.
That's correct.
So why are we waiting on the inspection?
Yeah.
If we're not gonna find out any news from the inspection, why are we waiting for the inspection?
We're going to inspect the bridge ourselves and bring in an engineering firm to do that, to, again, do our own inspection so we know what to do and come up with a repair plan.
So if PennDOT says shut the bridge down, CSX and say no, keep it open?
We're going to do our own inspection and come to that determination.
Well, I asked, PennDOT says shut it down, but CSX's report says keep it open. Whose report do we listen to?
We're going to do our own inspection and come to our own
So-
We're
determination.
listening to PennDOT.
So I think what it comes down, first of all, our inspections, it's not PennDOT's inspections. We do kind of oversee it. It was the borough's inspections done by a professional engineering firm that followed National Bridge Inspection Standards. So I think that's key. This isn't stuff that PennDOT, this is the federal guidelines regarding bridge inspections. So that's what we follow. I can't speak for CSX. I don't know, if we have the public going across the bridge, then it becomes our responsibility to say whether it's safe or not, although we're not the owner. So at that point, if it gets to the point where it would have, which we're not there yet, I think the next step over a series of a couple of years, we're talking about a reduction of posting. Is what, or weight restrictions. That's the next step. I mean, it's always, you never know as far as how these things deteriorate. And again, it's 70-some years old, 80 years old, whatever it is. So it's tough to predict. My guess is that you'd be talking about a further reduction in posting is what you would probably get to eventual complete closure. But, I think from the owner's perspective, I don't, they'd have to answer, that's a separate answer for them, how they would work out. I think to answer your question, probably what would happen if they come back in 6 weeks, here's what my stance would be. And they say, hey, we think it's good. And I say, well, wait a minute, we've got these inspections and you're not going to give me anything. We're going right to the PUC. I mean, that's what we would be doing. And what we would be saying is, here's our inspection report. Here's what we're saying. For a matter of public safety, why aren't you fixing it? And I hopefully that doesn't get to that, but that would definitely be the department's position. And then we would call for an emergency, field conference or whatever injunction they would follow through that process. So hopefully it doesn't get to that.
Yes, sir.
In the last 4 years, of all of the so-called inspections that are engaged by the borough to have engineers study the bridge, has the railroad received any of those responses?
Yes, we received the correspondence.
All right. Has the railroad, during that 4-year term up to now, because starting in 2022, I understand it was a problem. So has the railroad conducted their own engineering studies at all during that time period? And this will be the first one coming up?
Engineer, we've inspected the bridge and we've made repairs to the bridge. As to an engineering study, I can't speak to that.
Have you notified the borough of the repairs?
I do not know.
Question, just a quick one. In your railroad study that the engineer is gonna do, does it cover the road above? Or is it just cover what it needs to, a train to cross under?
I believe it will be all encompassing. Mostly focused on structure, but if we own the, we know, we own the asphalt above. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, inspect that too.
So everything, because we own up to the bridge on both sides.
Okay.
Everything else is yours.
Yeah, each bridge is different. Sometimes we own the surface, sometimes we don't
I
own the surface.
think you guys may be responsible for the surface on the walkway. I think there's something about, yeah. It's in the PUC order.
Yeah, I don't have it memorized, so yeah. Like I said, each one's different. Some people.
We're, can't hear.
Okay, sorry. We're looking that up right now, but I'm pretty sure that the borough is responsible for the sidewalk or the walking area of the bridge. As soon as we find out, we'll read it.
Yeah, that's not, I'll go over that in a second.
Okay, okay.
What's the limited rate at right now?
14 tons.
CSX has always made repairs on that walkway. Anytime that walkway was being done, CSX is the one to do all the repairs. I've never seen anyone from the borough up there making any repairs on the walkway or the railway.
So right now, it's, someone asked that the posting, it's going to go to 14 tons for a single unit and 20 for a combination.
So currently a fire truck can't go over top of it.
What's your fire truck weigh?
25 tons, but I thought I heard saying.
So,
Big trucks are 20s.
so
My tanker's 58,000, so ladder trucks probably 40.
So you would have to, there's a process that you could go through to get those particular, we'd have to know the specifications of those trucks. And it's possible that you could get those trucks certified to go across the bridge.
Yeah, but reducing the weight rating is not maintaining the road. That's put a Band-Aid on it. Okay, so if they're supposed to maintain it, we should maintain it at the weight rating that it's at. So any kind of Band-Aid is just totally not acceptable. Not to mention, well, man, the surface itself, the road surface itself is horrible. In 3 to 4 years, I mean, we're gonna have holes in the road as bad as it is. If we can replace a bridge on 219 in a year, I don't understand why it's gonna take 3 to 4 years to replace this one.
Wait, say that
Explain
again?
that to me.
Say-
The road surface is horrible. You drive across it, you've got to go 2 miles an hour, you're gonna straight bother, you have a little car. Okay, it's atrocious. In 3 to 4 years, it's gonna be destroyed with the salt and plow trucks.
I'm just telling you what my experience has been to go through the process with the PUC and the railroad. And the railroad. So when,
I think we need to go take different avenues to see if we can speed that up. I mean, if we can do it there, we can do it here.
I'm sorry, what was the example you had? I missed that.
The road down 219 north of Springs.
Oh, okay, well,
In a year,
so that was-
they've got that one just covered in place.
So that was an emergency situation,
This one isn't with the fire truck and you get across?
so you'd have to go through that process. And then I would say the other thing is you didn't have a railroad down there.
What was that?
You didn't have a railroad down there.
Use the microphone, please. Oh, that's.
I don't understand the lack of urgency in this. We have people that live on the other side of that bridge that are not gonna be able to get fire trucks, ambulance. We're here in part of the school bus, the transportation part of it. What you're telling us right now is we can't run a school bus over that. And we've been running school buses over that.
Now my 8-year-old has to walk
So
7 blocks.
I don't understand the lack of urgency. You guys are talking years out here. If it were your families and your kids living up there, that you're not gonna be able to get the fire department, the ambulances, the school buses up in there, how would you feel? We need help. We need you to do something, and not in 4 or 5 years. We need something done now.
You know, it can be done. That's the thing. We've seen it.
So first off, I want to state that I understand this is your job and we're kind of coming across personally to you. I apologize myself for that. Another thing I want to say is, you said the life expectancy of that bridge is how long?
75 years.
So 1940 to 2026, we're at 81 years old. So why weren't we talking about this 11 years ago? If the life expectancy of something is 75 years, that's the life expectancy. If it's still at the full weight rating, I could see, okay, the bridge is healthy, we'll leave it be. But whenever we're derating or deducting the amount of weight that can go across to the point where we can't get emergency dispatchers, school buses, anything like that over, my house catches on fire, anyone else's house catches on fire, heaven forbid my neighbor has a heart attack, what am I supposed to do, throw him in the bed of my truck and try to get him to the hospital because I can't get an EMS there? Break out the hot dogs and watch my house burn down? Oh, I was trying to get on Amazon, sorry again, because I'm taking it very personal to you. Should I just get on Amazon and order 30 or 40 fire extinguishers and the guy can put my own fire out? That's the point we're getting at. It's not just the point of crossing it now, it's the point of saving our community and the elders and our kids that have to walk forever to get to a school bus.
I'll make a commitment if I can. So, I'm making the commitment. I hope my fellow council. So, what we're talking about doing, I'm going to stay with this. I think my fellow council members and solicitor will as well. I think the county commissioners have been very involved in pushing us. I appreciate CSX being here. You know, they are going to step up. We're going to stay on this. I already asked him. I want to meet again. Like, we're going to stay on this every month. We're going to get this figured out. It's not going to happen overnight, but get your engineers out like we talked about in the next couple weeks. Let me know when you have the report. We're going to immediately go to PennDOT and the PUC and the commissioners and others if everybody's interested in that. And we'll get another meeting together. And then we're going to come up with next steps and timelines. You know, we might have to do some repairs with CSX's help to get this bridge secured until we have a longer term solution. But we're going to stay on this every month and we're going to start working really hard on it.
Our school buses are 17 tons, so we should not be driving over that bridge. Is that what you're telling us?
So there's signs up, and as far as the posting, it's 14 tons. It's 14 tons and 20. That's all right. So it's 14 tons for a single unit and 23 tons right now for a combination. That's what it has been. And what I'm saying is it's going to 14 tons for a single unit and then 20 for a combination. But that has not occurred yet, and then new signs will be placed.
Therefore, no, you cannot take a school bus across.
No, we shouldn't be going across there now.
But park that school bus on the railroad track, you know, long tail.
Yeah, why don't we shut the railroad down until the bridge is fixed?
It's a safety hazard having it parked across the railroad tracks.
The borough response.
Karen, can I just say one thing real quick? I'm gonna put him on the hot seat here. Just-
Mike, I don't think he's done with it.
Well, no, I'm gonna throw out some numbers here. I just, got on the internet here and Googled CSX. First quarter 2026 net earnings, $807 million. All right, first quarter, the company's operating income rose $1.25 billion. Surely to God, they can dig into their pockets. They don't have to dig that deep to find $3 million.
0.3% of their budget.
That's it. Sorry, I just had to give you that shock before you go.
Again, I'm sorry you're taking the brunt of it.
That's fine.
That's
I know it's your job, it doesn't make it any easier, man.
So I'm the loudest mouth here, and I probably really don't need a microphone. But I'm Mark Valentine. I'm the solicitor. To give you a little background, number one, this bridge is covered by an order through PUC from 1948. It's not an agreement. It's not a contract. It's an order. It was adjudicated, which means it went through a process. And the background of that is CSX had, it wasn't CSX that, it would have been, I believe, the vehicle, had previously closed crossings. And to close those crossings, they had to come to an agreement as to how to handle this bridge. The bridge was built, I believe, originally, not this bridge, but the prior bridge, in the 1800s. The replacement bridge was built in the 1940s. So it was adjudicated through the PUC. The PUC mandates under section 12 of that order that the borough pays for both sides of the bridge. That means the walkway and the roadway. Section 12 says that the CSX, then, pays for the macadam, everything on the bridge, and the walkway where the pedestrians travel. So several years ago, the borough had reached out to CSX. We had several meetings and we tried to come to a solution. The borough was unwilling at that time to take ownership of the bridge because, quite frankly, as you know, living here, we struggle to maintain the things that we have now and provide for the services. And there was no way that the borough could agree to say, not only would we have to pay in some future date to replace the bridge, but to maintain it, because we don't have the funds, and quite frankly, it just isn't going to work. This bridge is unique. Yes, it is a railroad-owned bridge, but it is public traffic, and the PUC is the one that governs it. What will happen? Hopefully, we can come to an agreement, because, and I fully agree with PennDOT, agreements are great. If we can't, we'll end up back at the PUC. Unfortunate nature of that is you can never predict completely how will the PUC react, because they're going to weigh, and this is not the greatest analysis in my own viewpoint, but they're going to weigh the economic benefit of CSX versus your health and safety. Now, for me, I would say health and safety wins all the time, because we can't buy life. You can't bring somebody back, no matter how much money, no matter what you throw at it. When somebody's gone, when somebody is impaired, it's done, and it's traumatic. Unfortunately, the PUC looks at it from an economic standpoint. And when they do their analysis, they look at, how is this going to impact economics? They don't have as much concern about health and safety. The things that we have going for us, prior crossings that have been closed. We have about a fifth, it's not a perfect fifth, but close to a fifth of Myersdale that is affected when we have those crossings closed. We've had a significant number of closings on our crossings over the last 10 years. We have had more than once where it is 8 hours. So we do have a lot of things going for us. Hopefully, we can come to a resolution to get this repaired so that we can continue to have EMS, fire, and the school buses to go over that. I do encourage the fire department, EMS, and the school buses to get in contact with PennDOT and to come through whatever rating that needs to be done so they can continue to travel. But if we can't come to that conclusion or come to a solution soon, and I mean very soon, we are going to have to go before the PUC, and they are going to have to decide, because the health and safety, and this is what the Borough Council discussed at our last special meeting, the health and safety is paramount. And as much as we appreciate the jobs and the economic impact that CSX has, we can't replace life. We can't replace life. We can't replace property. And, yeah, you can put a number on what's fire damage, but what's the loss? What do you do when you lose a loved one or somebody gets hurt? We can't go back. So, from the borough standpoint, we are going to push and stay steady. We appreciate the responses of CSX and what they're doing going forward, but these issues have been coming for quite some time. And I encourage you as the public to use the right to know. I have some of the copies here tonight, the larger inspection reports just before Ron Ackerman, but I encourage you to go to the borough and get these reports. They're all open to the public. You're allowed to get copies of them and actually look what they say. Same with the order for PUC. You'll see exactly what I mean. And you'll understand what is going on. And you'll understand where do we stand as a borough. But I want to thank everybody who came out and voiced their opinion, because if the community doesn't express their views, if the community doesn't express how they're impacted, nobody's going to listen. Nobody's going to do what they need to do. And it's very encouraging to know that you take it seriously, because it is serious. It's very important. Any questions for me? Yes, sir.
Not for you, I just have one more question for me and then I've already dealt with. I'm working for CSX, right? I get out of my truck to go work on them tracks. What's the first thing I do? Job briefing. Job briefing, right? Safety, right? I gotta put my hard hat on, my gloves on, make sure I have long sleeves on, safety toe boots and gloves. Safety glasses, right? Why is that safety first for this bridge isn't safety first for this community?
Taking steps.
Right?
Plan.
Whenever safety happens after production, it's not safety third, it's safety first. Right now, that bridge isn't safe. You guys are gonna put safety first for CSX and hold your employees to that standard. You need to hold yourself to that when it comes to bridge and people traveling across it.
Quick question, just, is this the only CSX bridge that's owned bridge in this community, in the borough?
Yeah, there's not.
Yeah, the only other similar situated bridge, but yet it's different, would be the one that goes across rails and trails now. But I don't believe there is any other. Yeah.
You mean the bridge that goes over the old railroad tracks that people bicycle over that's completely safe and replaced?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious, because if there's more than one, then maybe we should be talking about more than one bridge, that's all. So, I wasn't sure how many.
And just to kind of roll off what you're saying, part of what the issue that we had 4 years ago was Myers Avenue. And we came up with a secondary access road. The only problem is when the crossings are closed, and if we can't cross this bridge, that secondary access road has little to no meaning. So, yes, sir.
Is it only the borough that is interested in taking ownership over, or is the county interested, like they took all the other ones over? Past here a few years?
I will say I won't speak for the county.
That's not really you.
We have 74 bridges and that's enough.
What's one more?
Yes, sir.
Yesterday, I'm on the porch, westbound going down, he's hauling ass down and out. Slack line or whatever, bang, 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 bang. If that thing peels off and tears the bridge out, is the railroad gonna replace it then? Is the insurance gonna replace it, or are we screwed again?
There's many ways to answer that. They are, through the order, required to not only maintain, but also replace. And yes, we can go back to the PUC. Yes, that can change. As we stand now, they're required to repair and replace. I will.
That's no for us, as a train derails and tears the bridge out. That's no for us on the hill. Right?
I'm not gonna.
I'm speaking for us on the hill.
No, I understand.
I'm sorry.
I understand.
My house burns down. My insurance company's gonna say, well, we ain't paying for it, it's an act of God. Same as the damn railroad does. The crossing's blocked for 4 hours, an act of God. Because they don't have enough power to get up the mountain. The Power Bureau has their head up their ass.
The one thing I will tell you that anytime a crossing is blocked, you do have the right and ability to contact not only the PUC, who governs all crossings in Pennsylvania, but also the FRA. And they both are over those. And one of the things that does happen, and it happens a lot, are people don't really voice their position and their opinion. And I'm sure you guys have all heard this, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And when people don't complain and they don't stand up for what they believe in, that allows, others to maybe take advantage of it. And one of the things we need to remember without getting political is our system is built on voicing your opinion and giving that opinion so that others might hear it, act on it, take it seriously. So what I encourage you to do is not only with the bridge, but also with crossings, anytime they're blocked, voice your opinion and voice it to those who have control over it, which is the PUC and the FRA. Because if you don't do those things, they're not going to know what your position really is and the fact, who really is impacted and affected.
You also got to understand that CSX is moving America too. So there's going to be issues. So
Oh yeah, no, and that's part of it
too. Like I don't like sitting waiting for a train either, but I do know that without CSX, that the cost of living is going to go crazy up because they are literally transporting so many goods for everything.
And
And that's fine, but don't you think they need to make them shorter? The trains are too long, and in our area with the hills and stuff they have to climb, they can't. As school bus drivers, you won't believe the number of times in a school year, we get stopped and we'll sit there 10, 15, 20 minutes with 30, 40 kids screaming and yelling, why are we still sitting here? It's because these trains are too long. They're saving money. Well, yeah, you're making billions and billions of dollars, but at the expense of the people in every small community around the country. And like I said, I think the problem here, how long has it been since this bridge has been deteriorated?
To this level in the last 2 years.
But it's been, why are we now talking about doing something?
Because the inspection reports are what got us there.
But as soon as it started to deteriorate, that's telling you it's not good. It's getting worse. Why wait 2 years till we decide we're going to do something? If you really pay attention, there is no way to get school buses, emergency personnel up into that area when that bridge is closed. There are big turns. There's no way. There is no way to get there. And I don't live up there, but I feel for the people that do. And I feel for our kids that have to walk. And like I said, I never realized that weight has come down to the point where we shouldn't be driving over. So I've been well, not me, but our drivers have been putting kids in danger. And you guys are sitting there doing nothing about it?
And there doesn't seem any sense of urgency. 3 to 4 years, maybe 5. No, we'll get to it. There's no sense of urgency. That's ridiculous.
Can I add to the flip side of this?
Yeah.
If this was a bridge the train was crossing, would we wait 4 years to inspect it and maybe work on it, or does it get fixed like right now?
Now you lose revenue, remember? Production over safety.
Quick question about, so an agreement that was signed in 1940, whatever.
It's an adjudication, not an agreement, but yeah,
Okay,
you're good.
an order that
Yeah.
was put into place, was there any kind of verbiage in that order about if there were repairs that needed to be done, and in what timely manner that had to be done? Just because, like, okay, so we have this bridge, okay, and we have $1 billion business, and we have the fact that there was an order given. Usually those repairs have to be done within a certain period of time, and, time is of the essence, kind of thing. So was there any kind of verbiage in there that would hold our feet to the fire to say, like, this is what your original order said, so this is what we need to do?
Unfortunately, there is not that type of defining. In fact, it doesn't really lean upon the timeline period. And that's what makes this a little bit tougher from that standpoint, because if this was an of the essence situation, or even if it called upon a reasonable time, we could look to case law and say, what is reasonable in this case and how long does that take? Unfortunately, with that adjudication, it doesn't give any timeline or structure to that. And it's really meant, which is part of the reason why the PUC and PennDOT kind of team together with these type of bridges for these inspections to govern when this is necessary to do. So from the borough perspective, where we are allowed to start presenting that as an urgent situation is when it continues to be derated. And we get to the point where we're at now, where we have vehicles across that shouldn't be crossing. We have a large portion of the town and community that is affected, and we have the potential for catastrophic issues to erupt.
So if we would have addressed this, say 10, 15 years ago with CSX, and the council at that time would have addressed it, we could have probably had a solution at this point and then repaired and not having this conversation today.
It is quite possible that
Kicking the can down my point is kicking the can down the road has not prevailed.
it's fairly rare that kicking the can down the road has the outcome that is as productive as what we would like it to be. And to speak to that, the deratings and the reports didn't speak to that in such a sense of this nature, but being that the bridge has a 75-year life.
It started deteriorating the day it was built.
No, and I get that.
100%.
But what I'm saying is, even without deterioration, a 75-year life and we're at year 78, it would usually behest you to consider alternatives prior to this point.
Well, CSX owns that, if it's theirs. And to me, they're showing their disdain for the community when they're saying, oh, 4, 6, 8 weeks before we can get someone here. With all the money they have, why is it taking them so long to get someone in here to inspect that bridge so that we can start doing something now and not wait up 1, 2, 3, 4 months from now before we start anything?
You know, I can't speak to what, you know, and why with CSX.
Oh, I'm just curious, like, so we do replace this bridge in 4 years. The bridge is shut down. What happens while it's being rebuilt? What happens for transportation then?
So that sounds like a great PennDOT question, but if I understood what Mr. Greenland said, is that number one, the repair is the first step, and number two is looking at, you know, if it needs replaced, replacing it. What would happen in the interim when it is replaced? I have considered that too. Unfortunately, I don't have the vast knowledge and expertise that PennDOT would have. I don't know if you want to speak to that or
I mean,
not.
I can. You know, normally what happens, you would get an engineer that would study that. The traffic control would be a major component of the project. How long is the bridge going to be needed to be constructed? There's advanced technologies that we can use now to where we can construct a bridge in that span, I don't know, maybe in a month. Now it's very expensive. You're talking about very continual type of an operation, but you know, and then we'd have to weigh that with the public, the emergency services, school districts, everybody. Okay, what if it's shut down for a month? Is that something we can live with? And so that'd be something we would discuss. The only other alternative would be, you know, it's possible, based on the construction, you could keep half of it open, in one lane open, and then overbuild the other side, and then flip traffic. I mean, that's another thing that we'll look at. You're going to have a joint in the bridge then, and that's from a maintenance standpoint, that's always a little bit of a concern, particularly to the borough if that's who ends up owning it, because then joints in bridges, you know, typically leak and are typically a problem. And you're going to be a little bit wider. So, I mean, we would have to analyze that. I would imagine it would be some sort of an alternative analysis in the beginning stages of the design, and they would look at specifically traffic control and what those options would be.
Any other questions? Work on it.
So,
Yes, sir.
to get back to my question about how long we can leave the crossings blocked, we didn't really touch on that. I mean, is there any way that we can speed that process up? I mean, I understand stuff happens, I get it, but 8 hours is pretty bad.
Yeah, I can't.
4 hours blocking the whole borough is bad.
Yeah, so I don't have the history and we can't speak to every instance, you know.
Can you answer one question with that then for me? Again, I know the FRA regulates you. Is there a regulation that states a specific period of time? And if it is, what is it?
I believe there is, I believe it's 25 minutes, but I don't know, I'd have to look.
Then my follow-up question to that is, whose responsibility at that point is it to report that?
Anybody who can see it. So the conductor reports it to the dispatcher reports it to everybody who's federally required to be reported to.
Okay, EMA director, were you just notified of the 8-hour blockage?
Lots of times we don't get notified. I don't get notified.
We'd have to look at our of that, but I think we were the 8-hour, but it was already 4 hours in. Yeah.
I do have one thing to add. About 2 months ago, all the crossings were blocked in town. And I go to run my dog in the middle of the afternoon. I noticed it about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I thought somebody surely had called non-emergency to report it, to let CSX know so they could get the train moved. We went to Lowe's, came home about 8 o'clock, and all the crossings were still blocked. I was shocked. And so I said to my husband, surely somebody's called. But I called non-emergency, no one had called. And I said, somebody needs to call Jacksonville. We need to get the train moved. It's blocking all the crossings. And she said, well, we have a protocol at 911, how they handle that. And so they went through the process, and probably within a half hour, the train was moved. I tell you that, so if you see the crossings blocked, call, non-emergency. Just Google non-emergency, Somerset County non-emergency, and call and report it. And then we're sure they know, and they do everything they can to get the train moved.
If there is an issue at the crossing, every crossing has a blue sign, whether it's CSX, Amtrak, Norfolk Southern. We're federally required to have a blue emergency ENS sign at the crossing. It has our 1-800 number on it. It has the railroad and the DOT number of the crossing and the mile post. So for us,
I've called it many of times.
that's for us. That's the
And it
proper
has-
way to call.
When you talk to someone in Jacksonville, they could care less about if that crossing blocked or not. I'm sorry, I've called multiple times.
Doesn't the train crew themselves know they're blocking all these crossings?
They should, and again, they have a radio, they call the dispatcher and say, for some reason we've stopped, this is our headed mile post, and they should be able to tell whether they're blocked crossings. Yeah.
Then they should be able to report this, right? I mean,
They should, yes.
it's CSS's responsibility to report that they're blocking these crossings. But not they.
Yeah, we call our dispatcher, we tell everybody. And
So then, why then does it go hours before the trains are moved then?
Depends on what's wrong with the train. If the locomotive is on fire, you can't be moved.
Oh, yeah, that was, I think, an unusual situation that happened last week. But, I mean, it has happened that the train tracks were blocked for hours, and it hasn't been a locomotive for that. I mean, I don't know.
Again, I'm not sure of every instance. I don't research those. You know, I hear about them sometimes, but I don't know every instance and what the cause was and what the remediation was.
I mean, I can understand why we need to notify also, take responsibility, but in my mind, it's the CSX that has the most responsibility, so because they should know that they're blocking the crossings. And they should be working, trying to get them unblocked as immediately as soon as they block it. You know, there's not only our community, there's other communities in the area that happens to also. I can see why we need to take responsibility, but it shouldn't be all of us. It should be CSX initially, really.
I have one more financial question. So we get a report back and it says, oh my gosh, this bridge needs to be replaced. And CSX says, well, we want to apply for government funding first. We want to, because we have a negotiation period between the borough, the county, CSX, PennDOT, whoever, you know, I mean, at some point, where do we draw the line as to, because we know how it all is, waiting for government funding to come in. At what point can we call, you know, this has been enough, somebody needs to pony up, and let's get this done?
So legally speaking, from a,
Can we say, okay, oh, you know, negotiation comes out and the borough says, you know what, we'll take ownership of this road and this bridge, but you're gonna do it today, and we're gonna be done.
so the two components again are the repair, and we're getting fairly close to that being the point of petitioning PUC. If it would deteriorate even more quickly than it has, then it would become injunctive relief, which would get us before the PUC much quicker. Preferably, we can get this taken care of without doing that, having the uncertainty of what PUC would decide. But on the repair side, we're very close to that, as in like less than a year, meaning months, if this doesn't get rectified, because as you can hear, we can't get the fire trucks across. You know, I know they can be re-rated, I get that. EMS is getting fairly close to that same position. The school buses are also over that. So and that doesn't take into account many other vehicles that travel up there. So that being said, yeah, we're at that point from a repair standpoint. From a replacement standpoint, in what I have read about this and dealt with it, repairing it is of the utmost importance. And if it needs replaced, that's where, in my view, the negotiation should take place, get a timeline. 4 years ago, we had brought, I believe it had been Senator Casey, we had a representative from Senator Casey's office. I know the county commissioners were highly involved in it. We were looking at federal funding. You know, what can we do as a borough if we have to do this from a funding standpoint? The issue we kind of ran into again and again was funding wasn't as available as what we wanted it to be. And the avenues of funding, they kept telling us, well, this is going to be like a 12 or 15 year down the road projection. And while we're talking about that, it was always replacement and it wasn't much about repair. And the issue is, as we went along, we continue to degrade and it's more necessitous to repair. And yet it's kind of like ignoring the elephant in the room, so to speak. And you have to have both. But definitely the repairs, we're there now.
So as long as we continue these talks, and if nothing progresses, then the PUC can step in and say, we've decided that it's important and imperative, and we're gonna take over the situation, and we're gonna tell you what you're going to do. Who are they gonna tell who's gonna do what?
They have the ability to tell not only CSX what to do and how to do it, but also the borough. They have the ability to mandate and dictate how that will be done, when it will be done. And they also have the avenue to, I'll use the word assist in a unique way, or to motivate, I should say, because the PUC is very good at stimulating parties if you've ever had anything before them. They will stimulate funding in ways that are a little bit more proactive than the rest of us can do. The PUC is not, they are and I don't mean to speak out of line, they are a very, I'll say aggressive and agency, and they require action, and they will force action.
So basically, they can force this repair, replacement, whatever makes it viable for the community.
Yes.
At the borough cost and or at CSX cost or at both costs.
And see, that's why the balances went on, because if we petition the PUC, as much as I would love to tell you that we would come out of it and they would say the railroad definitely, has to pay for this because we have an order from 1948. The PUC could very easily come out and do their weighing analysis, which is not paying Kasab. I can't remember the case it comes from, but their weighing analysis and say, although the health and safety is detriment, right? Not detriment, it is so vastly important to the community because of the catastrophic loss that could occur. When weighing the economic importance, the borough should take ownership of this and then continue the repairs. And that's why we've been hopeful to try to not get in that situation. But unfortunately, we're getting very close to, that's what's we're gonna end up having to let it before the PUC if we can't get it done. Yes, sir.
I think I might have misheard or misunderstood. In order to get the government grants or funding, the borough would have to take over first.
Yeah, and I can't speak directly for CSX, but I know that in my experience with dealing with similar issues, even though the railroad is federally regulated and the railroad is, I'll call it for lack of a better term, quasi federal because of the funding and everything else they deal with, I don't believe that they have the ability or the availability to get grants and those type of funding. And I can't speak to how, from the government, what funding is available for certain things, but I know grants are not something that comes readily available to them as what other entities would be. And I know when we looked at this before 4 years ago, there were multiple options, none of which panned out, but there were multiple options for funding for the borough should they take it over. The issue that we had is, quite frankly, where the bridge came out on inspections at that point, nobody was overly willing to commit to that grant process. And we had a lot more ifs than we did, wills and shall. So it made it a very rough process. Now we're at the point where maybe the borough could get funding. There's no guarantee of that, but we would have a better chance of probably getting grant funding than what the railroad would. But on the other hand, not to get out of line on this, we don't have near the budget that the railroad has.
And how long does it take to get that funding?
That's just it. And all the stuff that goes into it.
Years.
Yeah.
But just to clarify, so if they went the grant route, is what I understood, it will come out of the grant funding the county gets. Is that right? No.
Are you talking about the decisions that we were talking about in 2022?
Yes,
We were
the-
going to have our consultants search for grant funding at the federal level with the understanding that the borough took over the bridge would be repaired, and we would simply pass it through. Yeah.
What would happen in 75 years if we take ownership and we have to replace that bridge again? The funding's not here for us to build a new bridge. So we don't want to take ownership of it. We don't have the funds to do it.
Then would it not then become an eligible bridge for the 12-year program, which you would, as you would if you had just if this were not a CSX bridge, if this were just a Myersdale Borough Bridge, you would utilize the state, 12-year plan, and you would program it for ongoing repairs, and you may not need replacement.
So in that case, it would be eligible for funding that comes out of our program. In that case, since it's over 20 feet, the borough would be responsible for 5%.
We would need to be proactive instead of reactive. And plan for that bridge to have to be replaced.
Yeah, I think
That's it.
the goal
That's
was
common sense.
take the bridge, replace the bridge, take it up to, standards, and then hand over
The
a brand new
the
bridge.
inspections that are done, that the borough's been doing, it has had lists of recommended maintenance activities for, in every one. So, so in the future, that they continue, if the bridge is replaced, you'd have the same thing.
So if the borough takes ownership and the bridge gets fixed, does it then have to go back to the railroad?
No, that's a one-way.
If we have reports of the inspections with a recommendation of what needed to be done to the bridge, CSX, did they do those recommendations?
Yeah, I can't speak to every recommendation and everything that was replaced, but I know from the decking on the pedestrian walkway, I know since I've been solicitor since 2014, there've been at least 3 or 4 times that CSX has made repairs to the decking on that walkway. Yeah.
Then how did it become unusable?
Yeah, there's been recommendations to keep this up to speed and up to the rating it's supposed to be. At what point does it fall under negligence?
So you.
That recommendations, but it just keeps on getting derated in weight. And those recommendations haven't been being made, correct? Or those recommendations haven't been followed through with.
If you would look at the various reports, you'll see that they specify it's not just that they haven't been replaced, the whole decking on the pedestrian walkway. It's literally specified specific planks that needed replaced on the walkway.
So nothing with the structure, just the walkway.
Yeah, at that point, correct.
Okay.
And so what would happen is, and I'm not saying this happened every time, but I'm pretty sure it happened fairly often, is that those specific planks would be replaced. The issue is other planks continue to deteriorate. And then once and I encourage everybody to look at these reports, if you look at the rating system, it has to get to that certain level before they're supposed to react or do anything. It's not like the deck at your home and you decide, I want this replaced, or this is not what I think is safe. They go by, and I'm not trying to speak for the railroad, but they go by that rating system. And then that's when they make that determination what not to replace and when to replace it.
This all only falls under the pedestrian walkway.
Well, but it's the same way. And when the inspection is done on the bridge itself, where the vehicular traffic travels, that has the same types of ratings and viewpoints. And if you would look, a couple years ago, they started to talk about the I'll call them bridges abutments for lack of a better term, and how they started showing some signs of deterioration, which are the same kind of reports you would see if you've ever looked at any of the PennDOT reports about their own bridges or any of the other bridges that fall under the same standard. So that's when they start watching particular components on the bridge a little bit more. And at those points, those portions did not need to be replaced or repaired, but they were identified as areas that were beginning to deteriorate or showing, more signs of deterioration.
So pretty well, like let's say there's beam A, B, and C. Beam B is at a point where it's ready to break. Beam C is short to follow. The only thing that they did was replace beam B. Beam C, they just waited until the report come back where it was about ready to follow.
Yeah, I can't speak to the actual beams and how they would replace it, but
that was a metaphor.
But no, I get you. So the most recent derating, it in the most recent pictures that we received, it did show some I'll call it deterioration on one of the beams. And my understanding is that the rating of it, it's not that the beam itself is like in a moment of collapsing or that it's going to fail at any moment. The derating is trying to reduce stress on that, gain time on the bridge so that we can find the solutions. That being said, yeah, that's how it gets rated. It goes by all the components of the bridge. The most recent report you'll see before Ron is like over 300, I think 380 or 390 pages. And it goes through detail by detail every component of that bridge. And it also shows you how the ratings have changed over time and if repairs were made.
As PennDOT has done or whoever is doing the inspections through the years, last 15 years, we're having an inspection done on this bridge every year. Did the borough have the ability to go back with that inspection report to CSX and say, this is what our inspection report says, this is what your inspection report says, this is what we want to have done, for whatever purpose, safety, preventative measures, whatever the case is? Did the borough have the ability to negotiate those repairs to encourage, not just replacing a beam when it gets to the end of its life expectancy? I run around with a lot of home inspectors, and my job is to talk about those kind of things. Like, let's talk about preventative measures. Have they done that through the last 10, 15 years?
Since 2014, there has been at least 4 different, I'll say, focused communications between the borough and CSX. Now, all the reports go to CSX. They're provided with those. In the kind of difference between if this was solely a private transaction or those things, it's not weighted quite the same. So even though those reports come back and the borough has expressed preferences, I'll say, because it's not as much that we really have the teeth that you sometimes would in a private agreement, but we've expressed concerns, we've expressed what we believe should be done. But CSX at the end of the day owns the bridge. And the way the order is written is they are given a fair amount of latitude. So until it gets to that point, like where we're at now, it's really hard to push them, because the first thing, or one of the first things the PUC would want to see is, what are the current inspection reports say? Where are we at with that? What is CSX's position, which is why they get an independent report to make their own determination. And, they go from there because they look at the science of it. And unfortunately, if we get to that point, then the PUC has to decide.
So is this going to be CSX's first inspection, independent inspection on this?
I can't speak directly to that, but I don't believe so. I know that they have been, each of the times that there have been like planks needed to be replaced on the pedestrian walkway. When CSX has received that report, I know that they do their own inspection. Of course, we're not privy to it because they are a private entity, and they do their inspection. Sometimes we're aware that they have made the repairs, and sometimes we become aware because we do the repairs. And that's part of the issue with having an order like this. But to the best of my knowledge, they have been reactive. The issue is we're getting to that point where, replacing planks is not a huge budgetary concern. I'm not speaking for CSX on their budget, But replacing planks is a fairly low capital cost. Whereas replacing a bridge, gets fairly expensive. And some of the numbers I know, the Eads who had done the reports for the borough, had thrown around on replacement costs a few years ago were a little bit higher than 3 million or 2 million, which that sounds a lot nicer. But it's, that's where the pushback, I won't call it pushback, but that's where that issue comes into play because you're talking about a larger capital expenditure.
So whenever CSX, and I'm gonna play devil's advocate for them for a second, and whenever they do those reports and you don't, and the borough, do they ask for those reports? Will they provide those reports to them? Because is the borough asking for those reports when they do that independent study? Even though they're not privy to it, are we asking for it?
We would, once we know that they have done a report, we would ask for it. They're not required to give it to us. It wouldn't follow under FOIA, which would govern, federally the Freedom of Information Act. It's also not available under the Right to Know Act, which is the Pennsylvania version of FOIA. So they could, out of a courtesy, provide, I would say components of it because it is their private bridge, so to speak. But yeah, no, we would request those. Especially if we have conflicting views.
And we have, correct?
When we have been aware that the reports exist, correct?
And they've provided them?
I am not sure how much of the reports they provided, but we have received portions of reports. Yes, sir.
Mark, in the original order from the PUC is, and this I'm going to use, the legalese that I'm familiar with.
Yes.
Is that should CSX did shall?
It's shall.
Shall, not may.
Yes, shall.
It's a shall. So
Yeah.
they shall provide the borough with that bridge.
Correct.
Then where's the argument?
The issue is, as much as I'd love to tell you, that shall will prevail. And I have experience before the PUC. They have discretion to make a decision, and they have made these decisions on a fairly consistent basis, where they will agree that this bridge needs replaced, repaired, or whatever it might be. But then they will say that it's not always, and I emphasize that, CSX that has to pay to replace it, and they will go on a little diatribe and an opinion and go into expressing how 75 or 78 years ago, the necessity and the transportation differences and all these other things that you nor I would agree with, okay? And how now things have changed and it should be the borough's responsibility. That is the only, what many people forget is in our judicial system, and I'm not speaking wrongly of decisions made, but in our judicial system, there's always a gamble. And we can believe our position is very solid. But the PUC, for example, they're appointed to those positions for a specific reason because they're controversial in nature. And they have the ability to make decisions that you nor I might agree with.
I just don't know how that would change. I don't know how that necessity for that bridge would have changed from 1940.
My viewpoint, it hasn't.
2026. It's
Yeah.
such a necessity. I mean, I could see if nobody lived on the other side of that bridge and they could say, okay, we no longer need that bridge. We can go ahead and eliminate it. But if they shall provide a bridge, I don't know where they have a leg to stand on that they can walk away from.
And I'm not disagreeing with you because I share that viewpoint, but unfortunately we also have to weigh.
I lived in a world that was shall and may.
Yeah.
And shall means you do it. May means hey. You can
Shall doesn't have quite the hold that we would like it to have. Because shall, when I was told shall, and I jumped and listened to exactly what I was told.
Right.
And still do that today.
So yes, I do.
Pretty much
Thank you.
the ownership of the bridge,
Yeah, there you are.
even though CSX owns the bridge, they can't be held liable to repair the bridge, according to the PDC, is what you said?
Yeah, well, not to get too deep into administrative law, but the order itself would present the rules and responsibilities of both parties as they are today. Liability is a little bit different situation, which deals with negligence itself and actions that haven't happened yet or incidents that haven't happened yet. But the duties and responsibilities as we stand today are listed in that order. Yeah. It's just when you have to enforce it.
So if I own my house, I can make you pay to repair something on it?
If you were fortunate enough to have a contractual agreement that gave those kind of rights and responsibilities,
Ownership's not really ownership.
we could have a debate on that with death and do we own anything and how long do we
We don't,
possess it?
we don't. Yeah, I'm just very curious. on it.
Understood.
CSX owns it. So if I
Understood.
go up there and do something against, so if I drive my vehicle, my truck down the CSX railroad tracks to go fishing down a fishing hole, they can arrest me or whatever the hell that is, that they can do when they shut those down. They own that, they can do that, but they own the bridge and can't fix it. Stuff like that just blows my mind. I own my truck, but it's on your railroad tracks.
Unfortunately, our world's not always about water runs downhill, even though you and I have seen it run downhill every
I like
day.
that now.
Yeah.
From the other bridge out, I don't know what street it's on, above Ronnie Boyce's. Was that the same scenario we're dealing with now? Did CSX own that one and just defeat
That
it?
was owned by Rails to Trails at the time.
Yeah, and
It was owned by different railroads.
I don't know if that was covered by an order. I don't know the conditions that may or may not have been around that either.
But are you talking about the one on Upper Broadway?
Yeah, the one up by Ronnie Boyce's there, that's no longer there.
North Street. There's a different route. There's two separate routes up there. That's why they can get rid of it.
Is that in the same scenario? They
I
just-
don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Before we go to our county rep.
Because the latest measurement from the engineers somewhat downgraded the rating for weight. Is there a public directive to especially the fire department or the school bus companies about the use of that bridge at this time? From this moment forward, that's an important question.
Yeah, no, the directive and the notice, it comes from the derating itself, but the directive, I would believe, would come with the suggestion of PennDOT was to have the vehicles that are over that limit go through the system.
There'll be new signs placed.
And there are going to be new signs placed, correct, but.
Yeah, I know.
So that'd be the
signs-
directive. The directive would be the signs. That's the directive, and it's the responsibility of the
There's no
operator.
notice from the state at all regarding directed to the fire department. Oh, okay.
It's the signs.
You have to read the sign. Okay.
Any other questions?
I got one, just for the railway. Is there any way that crossing could be tunneled, eliminate the bridge altogether?
Crossing could be tunneled?
Yeah.
How do you mean?
A tunnel through there.
Well, I know what you're talking about.
For the railway. And the vehicles.
Essentially, putting a tunnel in there would be putting a bridge in.
In other words, nobody would have to make changes. We would still have to maintain, we would take care of the road part. Okay, I just.
Yes, sir. I'm assuming you're standing because you want to call.
Yeah.
Yep.
Frustrating.
Yes.
Who inspects the bridges for you? EADS, right?
Eats, yes.
Okay. EADS is under 1 week. The next week, 2. CSX is under their welding. Why are you welding the bridge if it don't need repair? Because they blocked it. I had to go around. I could look down the tracks. Somebody throw smoke at some of the gas around.
I don't want to argue with something, sorry.
Any questions? All right.
Joel, did you have a
Oh,
comment?
yes, I'm sorry, Joe.
That's okay. And we're done with the borough response. We're in general comments. I have a directed question. I just want to make sure. No, I don't need the mic.
Okay.
You're done with your response.
Yes, sir.
You were in like general.
All you.
I'm directed, this is directed towards CSX. I'm Joel Landis. I'm the emergency management coordinator. There's 67 of us all across the Commonwealth, so every county has one. Just a couple takeaways, real quick. I appreciate you guys being here in front of the community. The issue with the stop trains, I understand if there's an emergency, public safety already knows about that, but if you have a mechanical issue or something, please have Jacksonville, call our 911 center to make sure that they're aware. We don't want a delay in any kind of response. It sounds to me, it's obviously there's an identified deficiency within the bridge. I think history repeats itself over and over again. We had a major flood up in Johnstown, 3 of them. We had a bridge in Pittsburgh that collapsed with known deficiencies. It looks like you're taking the steps to see the extent of the damage. It sounds like you're financially maybe obligated or willing to repair the bridge. To that extent, I don't know yet, but just to try to make exponential steps. And if you can financially help out, we're a Commonwealth here. I know you have train tracks running through states, but fortunately, we have a lot of dictation in how we run our government in a Commonwealth. Unfortunately, it's very, very expensive for a Commonwealth to do that. So it's really, really hard for small rural communities to be able to afford such expensive repairs. So if you could maybe appreciate helping out, that's thank you.
Anybody else have any comments? Okay. I appreciate everybody coming out. I think we're going to work closely together on this. I've asked Mike to get back to me as soon as they have the engineer's report. We'll get another meeting scheduled. We'll post it. We'll let everybody know. And we'll just continue to work on this. But we're going to keep a close eye on things here going forward. And besides that, there's refreshments in the back. So please make yourself at home. Thank you again.